Hey friends, welcome to the channel. If you want to learn French or if you are already learning French, you found the right video, because today I will show you what I have learned in over 1,300 hours, and I will help you to avoid the errors I have made when learning French. Los geht's! My name is Dustin. I'm an IT project manager from Germany. On this channel we create content that helps us to be more productive, to learn new things, especially languages, and to live a happier and more fulfilling life. In this video we will have a look at some interesting features of the French language, and I will give you some tips to help you with your learning and to reduce the stress level and the frustration. Let's dive into today's topic. So first of all, a nice sip of coffee. Thank you, brother, that you reminded me that it's not called a zip but sip. So if I'm making pronunciation errors or errors in general, my English is not perfect, so please let me know in the comments. It always helps me. Okay. How written text and spoken word differ from each other in terms of letters which you don't pronounce or which are silent. Like for example this small sentence here. You would read it aloud like "Vous cherchez la bonne idée," but it's completely differently written. So being able to speak and to write are two completely different shoes and require additional learning efforts. And I have some further tips on the whole topic. So if you have a verb with a ENT ending, so for example, il lisent, it would be il lise and not il lisent. And yeah, that's quite useful, and it took me quite some time until I understood that. And then the H is always silent, like in all Romance language I know so far. So it's not hotel, but for example hotel. Then the next point, that the pronunciation is the challenge, is somehow related to the first point a bit. So when learning French, I've discovered the mimic method by Adao Sanès, and I've learned the IPA. And the IPA is the International Phonetic Alphabet, and yeah, it's an alphabet for phonetics, which means that you break down the language in the sounds that it consists of. Within the program I did many exercises around the IPA and around pronunciation and all those kind of things. I've also already made some videos about the IPA, and those videos were actually my first videos on YouTube, so please be kind. But I will link them here. Further, all the mimic method resources are by now freely available, and I will put the link into the description, and I can just highly recommend that you have a look on it. Because I've learned so much doing the program and my pronunciation has improved drastically. So if you follow the advice within the program and if you do exercises and work on it, you can really get a very, very good accent. Since the language has some specialties and also written text and spoken word differ from each other, it can be really beneficial to learn the IPA. So with the IPA you would break down the language into its phonetics and syllables and into the smaller parts. So for example in French we have 3 to 4 different nasal sounds depending on who you ask. If you put them into words it would be like don, son, fin. And those were 3 different ones, especially the first 2 are pretty close to each other. So yeah, they require some practice. And then for example you have also different R sounds. So for example riche or trois. If you have an E with an accent on it, an accent aigu actuellement, then it's E. And if you have an E with an accent grave, then it's E. So for example E like in idée, or E like in pair, for example. And then how different formal speech with regular day-to-day spoken speech is. And of course, I got that. You have that in every language, but with French, it's very, very, crazy, I think. Even today, I don't get 100% if I'm watching a series with really fast spoken French and really fast dialogues, even though I've spent over 1,300 hours of learning French. I'm not there yet that I have a native level comprehension. The question of course is, why is that? Am I just dumb, or are there reasons for that? So for example, the phrase il n'y a pas, you can just leave out the il and the n, and then you have yapa. And no, it's not Japanese, it's actually French. And then this is just a really simple example of some abbreviations and how you can shorten the language. but there are even way more complicated ones. Then of course slang and verlan. So you have slang like in any other language, but then you have also verlan, and that's a specialty of the French language. So that means l'envers actually. So you change the syllables of a word. So for example, let's see, you have énervé becomes vénère, or fou becomes ouf, or what else do we have? Louche becomes chelou. So you just switch things around, but they become new words. So actually, if you want to understand them in context, you really need to learn those words, because you can't do the trick to rebuild it. And sometimes there are also words that that are a bit weird. Like for example, femme becomes meuf, and And then last but not least, the French language isn't really a melodic one. Don't get me wrong. I really love the French language, and I love the sound of it, and it's really special. It's a special language, and it's a beautiful language, if you ask me. But it doesn't have those ups and downs and like a melody like with Italian. The Italian language, you can speak really, really fast, but it really has a melody. It has those ups and downs, and to have a melody helps you to understand the language. If you don't have that, it gets more complicated and more difficult. Then the French numbers. And probably you've heard of that or you know that already, but the French numbers are completely weird. So for example, if you take the number 98, it's not 98 or 90 and 8. No. It's 4 times 20, 10, 8. So it's 98. Why is that? I mean, come on guys, but wait, it can get even more complicated. Let's take years for example. So 1998. Let's think 1998. What is it in French? It's 1998. 1998. What? It's completely crazy. Even today I'm confusing the numbers. So yeah. But there are also some better examples. So for example, in Belgium or in parts of Belgium and in Switzerland, they do the counting differently. They don't say 80, but they say autant, or I think also 80, but something more logically, more easily, or 90 for 90, for example. 70 for 70, and so on. So yeah, that's better. I would just I really hope that France could also adapt that system, but yeah, well, that's how it is. Then the French language has genders, like all the Romance languages. There are 2 genders, that is masculine and feminine. And the good message is it has only 2 genders. Like in German, there are 3 genders. There's also, neuter. Neuter. And the French language also had that in the past, but then at some point they got rid of it, and all the neuter words became male words or masculine words. And you can distinguish the different genders mostly by the endings of the words. So for example, if the word has an ending like ette, like baguette, then it's feminine. Or there are more examples like this. But in the end, it's good to know that, but I would say just consume massive amounts of comprehensible or compelling input, and then at some point it will just all fall into place and you will get the gist, and you will just notice and just know which gender a word has. So don't worry about that too much. This is not a bad error to make, and everybody will understand you anyway. Then if you're into rap, the French language is the right one for you, because it has the second largest rap scene after the US American rap scene, and there are some cool artists and some nice songs. I have made a playlist on Spotify and I will link it in the description. Then the amount of content which is available in French. I know, probably that's not a big surprise, because the French language gets spoken by millions of people, not just in Europe or, for example, in Canada, but also in Africa and other parts of the world. Yeah, still. So there's an abundance of content on, like, for example, YouTube. There are books, podcasts, and many more things. I've already made videos about great French YouTube channels, for example, and I will also link it somewhere here. Then how much the French language has influenced English. So in the past there has been conquest from the Normandy or from the Normans to England or to the UK, and they took quite some parts of the country, and then they also introduced the French language there. And yeah, it found its way into English, and nowadays there are still many words which are actually the same, so you can just take them and pronounce them differently. But be aware, there are also false friends which you probably then should be aware of at least. Then that is really a challenge to speak French in Paris, because the people will perceive you quickly as a tourist when you are there, even when you are an intermediate speaker, for example. On the other hand, they have also massive amounts of tourists coming in there, so probably that's why they get annoyed. But if you go, for example, to the south of France, to different cities there, like, I don't know, Aix-en-Provence, for example, or Marseille, that's different. The people are nicer. So yeah, keep that in mind if you want to travel France, for example. It's not just Paris, there are many nice cities. Then, if I would have known that there's a tool called LanguageTransfer, that would have saved me definitely some trouble. So this is a tool where you get the language explained in a way, through thinking, not through memorizing stuff or so. And it's completely for free, so it's actually an audio program, but they have also an app. So definitely give it a try. This is a hidden gem, I would say. Many people don't know about it, and yeah, I hope that I can promote it here a bit. And then last but not least, understand first. So if you want to learn a language, it's probably a good idea to learn to understand the language first, to build up comprehension, depending on your personality type. It depends. There are people who really like to speak from day one, and I have a huge respect for that. And it can be very beneficial to do that. But for most of the people, in my experience, that's not the case. And I would try to first build up the comprehension, and when you can understand stuff, it's way less daunting to start your first conversation. Also, for many people it doesn't work to just learn grammar like in school, and mostly it won't get you fluent in a language. But work on your comprehension, and if I would have known that earlier, that would have been so cool. For that matter, LingQ can be a great companion. I really wouldn't want to miss it anymore. I didn't have it in the beginning of my language learning journey, but it would have definitely saved me from some hassle and from some stress. Other than that, I can just tell you that it's possible to learn French, and that is really rewarding when you can do stuff with the language. And you need to have the right motivation, definitely, and you should do stuff every day, even if it's just a bit. So in the long run, it will definitely pay off, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. Start small and then build up and stack your habits. French is a beautiful language, and I hope this video could help you out. What are your biggest challenges with learning French? Please let me know in the comments. If you are interested in more language learning resources in French, I've already made a playlist for that, and I will link it somewhere here. And then last but not least, if you found the video useful, please leave me a like and a subscription to the channel, and to not miss anything going forward, click on the notification bell. Thank you very much for watching, and see you the next time.